a couple of months. The 73 has inched up as it relates to our nursing homes. To give a little bit more information about the 8 people who have died, a black female in her 70s who passed with underlying health conditions who passed away on July the 4th. A white male in his 80s, again with underlying health conditions, who passed away on June 25th. A Hispanic male in his 50s with no underlying health conditions who passed away on June the 27th. A Hispanic female in her 90s with underlying health conditions who passed away on July the 6th. A white male in his 40s with underlying health conditions who passed away on June 25th. A white male in her 80s with underlying health conditions passed away June 29th. A Hispanic male in his 40s with underlying health conditions who passed away on June the 4th, and a black female in her 90s with underlying health conditions who passed away on July the 9th. COVID-19 is a virus that continues to run rampant in our city. And again, it is a virus that's running rampant that is still out of control. And so what we do today and over the next few weeks is critical to getting this virus back to some degree of control, and a virus that we can manage. And as you can see, the people who are impacted, especially who are dying, are anywhere today from their 40s up to their 90s, and in one case, 40s, with no underlying health conditions. The virus does not discriminate. It is an equal opportunity abuser, and certainly it will impact anyone who operates in close proximity with others. We learned today that the Houston Rockets player, star player, Russell Westbrook, tested positive. So again, it's a reminder, this virus doesn't care who you are, what your social economic status is, whether you have a title, no title at all, it will impact you. And so I want to thank Russell for sharing his message on social media, encouraging people to mask up. And that's one of the few tools that we have in our arsenal, and that's to mask up. And the more people that masked up, the greater our chances are with slowing down the progression of this virus. So let me just say, it's not just enough for half of us to mask up, but we need pretty much a high degree, in the 90s, a degree of people complying and masking up that will help to slow down this particular virus. And getting the virus under control is critical because testing and contact tracing and hospital capacity is strained and is being pushed. So please, we have to do all of these things in concert with one another. And what we do today and over the next few weeks, couple of weeks, quite frankly, remains even more critical. I want the economy to remain open, like all of you. I want people to be able to hold on to their jobs. I want businesses to be open. But it is important that we deal with this virus today. And then as we talk about the opening of school next month, quite frankly, what we do in the month of July will pretty much determine what will take place next month. And so instead of people kind of looking quickly to next month, we need to be singularly focused on slowing down this virus this month. And I mean not only slowing it down, but slowing it down such that the number of people going to our hospitals, the number of people in ICUs, that number should be going down and staying down. And that way it will provide a greater degree of comfort when we are talking about sending our kids back to school. It also means that we need to stay home as much as possible. If you can work remotely, then I'm encouraging people to do just that. Avoid gatherings of more than 10 people. Leave the house parties alone. That doesn't work in your best interest. These big splash town pool parties, not real good. I mean, not good, not wise. We need to be avoiding all of those type of things. And so there's a lot that's taking place, but it's so important when we're hearing these numbers, 1,544 new cases today, 8 new deaths, that should send a strong reminder that we still have a lot of work to do in this city. Dr. Peirce.
Thank you, Mayor. We've talked previously, we talked about the positivity rate, and so I think we got a couple of graphs that are coming up here, and this monitor is off, but that's okay. But we mentioned about a week ago the positivity rate was at 25.2%, and these are tests that are done within the city limits of Houston. And what this graph shows is the purple line is the positivity rate, and you can see that it is at a very high level, and it continues to go up. Now it's only inched up since last week. It's gone from 25.2% to 26.8%, but in June it was, in June, at the end of June it was 25.2%, but in March it was 14.7%. The yellow bar is the number of tests, the red is the number that are positive, and what you can see graphically there is the effect of the lag, but if you notice that the purple positivity rate accounts for that, and so over time, over the next 2 weeks, those bars will probably come up, but I don't expect that the positivity rate will change a great deal. So, as the mayor pointed out, the virus is still very active and spreading throughout the community. If we go to the next slide, we have a map showing the zip codes that have the highest positivity rates. The darker the blue, the higher the positivity rate. Now, a word of caution as we look at this. These are the residences of the folks who tested and were positive. This does not indicate necessarily where they contracted the virus. So remember, we've said that the person you're most likely to infect or be infected by is a family member. The second most likely person you're going to infect or be infected by is a coworker. So this is reflecting where people live, not necessarily where they work. Also, please don't misunderstand that those zip codes that are more lightly colored are necessarily safe. There is still viral activity even in the lightly colored zip codes. And I would also point out that this map represents May and June, and if we had looked at this in April and May, the map would probably have looked quite different. The virus moves around. This is just a snapshot in time, but I think one thing for people to take away is that we are trying to keep close tabs on it, and you will notice that there are quite a number of zip codes where it's greater than 25%, and ladies and gentlemen, that percentage is just way too high. And as I've said before, and the mayor said, and others, is that our destiny is in our own hands. You want the economy to open up, wear a mask. If you want the schools to open up, stay 6 feet away from people. If you want everything to get back to normal, don't go to big parties, just follow the rules. It's not that hard, and we have been successful before. We can be successful again.
Thank you, Dr. Purse. Chief Pena.
Thank you, Mayor. So today, the number of firefighters in quarantine is looking a little bit better than we did a few weeks ago, but we are still experiencing a high number of personnel that have been sidelined. We have 190 firefighters today that are in quarantine. We have 2 that are in the hospital. One is in ICU. He's being monitored in ICU. He's on a BiPAP. He is not intubated, and we're hoping that he makes positive progress and hope to see him out of ICU here pretty soon. In regards to our occupancy task force, we received in the last 24 hours 50 complaints that we responded to. We didn't have to refer any business to TABC, which is also positive. Again, I want to thank and express my gratitude to the business owners that are helping us achieve the intent of the governor's order. In regards to staffing, to go back a little bit, I want to take this time to dispel any misinformation and disinformation about the status of our fire stations. There are no fire stations that are closed. Every fire station is open. Now, we do have a strained staffing table. We have almost 200 firefighters that are in quarantine, and then plus all those that are off on certain types of leave, on top of an already stressed staffing table. Okay, so it is a tight staffing ability. But we are staffing every ambulance. We're staffing every fire truck. The ladders, we've had instances over the weekend since July 4th where we've had to idle certain units. But every fire station is covered by at least a fire truck, and most of them have an ambulance in the fire station. And all ambulances are in service. Okay? I want to clarify that information because there is some disinformation out on social media. Our firefighters are doing an outstanding job of covering those extra shifts. Some of them are pulling double and triple duty, and we appreciate the work that they're doing. We're working to get the rest of these firefighters back and prevent them from getting exposed, but we can all do our part in the community as well to ensure that not only are we tampering down the spread of this virus, but we're limiting the exposure to our first responders as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. I also want to remind people that the new testing site at HCC and Navigation is open today. And so we are adding to our testing capacity. The other two major sites, Butler and Del Mar, those stations testing sites are open. And certainly want to thank the governor for getting FEMA to extend their presence at those two testing sites through the end of July. So that collaboration with FEMA, the state, the city, that will continue through the end of July. Additional testing site at ACC and Navigation, so that is open. These are all free testing sites, and they are open and available for each and everyone, regardless of your status. If anyone asks you for your status or anything like that, that's violating the rules. So anyone in the city of Houston, they are welcome at all of these testing sites. And again, I simply want to encourage people to help us to reduce this number of people that are testing positive. And like today, 1,500, way too many. It is very difficult to do contact tracing when the numbers are that high. So we need to significantly work to lower that number such that our contact tracing program can be more effective. And the only ways we're going to be able to do that is that people have to really take these masks seriously, keep them on when you're in the presence of somebody else, the social distancing, the proper hygiene, avoiding these large parties, get-togethers, on weekends during the week. That simply is working against. And again, our initial purpose is to make sure that we don't overwhelm our health care delivery system such that if people need a bed, there will be a bed for them, and not just for COVID-19. But if they're suffering from strokes or diabetes or any other illness, we want to make sure that there's a bed for them. Some people may say, well, Mayor, I won't get COVID. Well, that may be true. You may not get COVID-19, but you may need medical assistance for some other ailment. And you want to make sure that there is a bed available for you, if not for COVID, for something else. So come on, let's work together, let's make it happen, and I just know that you will. Having said that, let me pause, and we're available to take any questions that any of you may have.
I have the poll questions, Mayor.
Sure.
First one here is from Fox, and it says it's regarding Governor Abbott last week announced Army Medical Task Force was supposed to arrive in Houston today. Can you tell us if they've arrived and at which hospitals are they assisting? And also, have you spoken to the governor directly about your request for a 2-week shutdown? And if so, what has been his response?
Okay, let me pause. Let me ask Dr. Percy to come up first. I win the bet because I said that was going to be the first question coming up today. And I want you to know I won the bet. I can't say that yet because they haven't paid it.
To give my Houston Health Department face mask is what we're going to do. So, yes, there are U.S. military personnel that did arrive today, and they've done an assessment. And you may recall that last week we had folks from FEMA doing an advance, and this is part of that effort. They are looking at establishing, there's a couple of options that they have, but they're looking at establishing, taking a wing from one of our local hospitals. At this point, it looks like it's going to be UMMC that has an empty wing, and they are going to establish a between 30 and 50 bed hospital there that will take patients in transfer from other hospitals to lighten the load of the other hospitals. We also got word today that we're getting some support to open up a third medical resort. And the medical resort, to remind you, is a nursing home that has been vacated and is similarly used to take care of patients who have been hospitalized and are improving and just aren't quite ready to go home. So they are sort of on the recovery, and there's a third one that will be established very shortly here.
Do you have a location for that?
Sorry, say again?
Do you have a location for that, of where that might be?
It'll be, I don't have the specifics, it'll be in the Willowbrook area for the medical resort.
And I guess, Mayor, for the second question.
Yeah, on the second one, I have not talked to the governor personally. I do know that his people are aware of the request that I've made, and that is, I don't think it's going to be enough to slow down the progression of this virus in time to keep, let's say, our systems from being overwhelmed. So So I think we're going to have to do some additional things. Wearing the mask is a big help, and I think that will, over time, work to slow down, but not in the time period that we need. The social distancing, the proper hygiene, I do think we're going to need a shutdown for a period of time. I am proposing 2 weeks, or at the very minimum, to return to phase 1. But as you can see, when we're talking about 1,500 plus cases today, over the weekend, big numbers, quite frankly, for the last week or so, the numbers have been big, and they've been getting larger and larger, the number of people going to our hospital systems. I do think we need to reset, especially in light of the fact that next month, kids, we're talking about returning to school. And so it is so important for us to try to get some control over this virus in the month of July. And bear in mind, you really don't know the effect of what you're doing for another 2 to 3 weeks after you do it. So let's say if we reset, shut down, return to phase 1 today, then we're not going to be able to know really in a statistical way how effective those steps have been for 2 to 3 weeks down the road. So the quicker we do it, the better. But I am looking at the numbers from the hospital every single morning, and I do know that we're continuing to creep up. Some days it gets a little bit better. Some days we don't have as many people in ICU. We're still in phase 2 in the Texas Medical Center. One day it may be 17%. This morning it's 9%. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? So I just think we need to reset and then look at the data and then determine where we go from there.
Thank you, Mayor. These next questions are actually for Dr. Pearce from KPRC. Daily new hospitalizations at the Texas Medical Center appear to have leveled off. If you look at the 7-day average since July 5th, is this an encouraging sign?
Yeah, it is an encouraging sign, but I hesitate for anyone to think job accomplished. Remember, even back in the beginning, we talked about peaks. We said that when you get to the peak, that's just halftime. That's not game over. And so for a couple of days, it looks like the new admissions may have leveled off. Now, remember, this is over a weekend, and we sometimes see that impact from the weekend. So I'm not counting any chickens yet, all right? But it is encouraging that they didn't continue to increase at the rate that they had been. But it's too early to really determine what that means.
This is on contact tracing, also for you, Dr. Pearce. With rampant widespread infection, how much more challenging is the task of identifying the source? And also, are there scenarios today that are not to be traced as they were, say, 2 months ago because of the surge in the community transmission?
So I'm going to answer the first part, and then I'm going to ask you to repeat the second half, okay? But the first part about how challenging it is, and of course it's challenging. We get 1,500 new cases a day. So our team of, remember there's case investigation, which is then followed by contact tracing. So today, the Houston Health Department got faced with 1,544 new cases where we've got to reach out and find these people and have a conversation with them. And we're racing against the clock because many of these test results were obtained days ago. And so really, if we're going to have a window of opportunity, it's at 14 days from when the person first had symptoms to not only talk to the case, but because the case is positive, they know that already. It's who did they potentially infect. That's who we need to get to so that they can then quarantine. And again, to remind you, the rubber meets the road when people who need to isolate actually isolate themselves, which means no person-to-person interaction. And the people who need to quarantine actually quarantine themselves, which means no person-to-person interaction. And so it's incredibly challenging. With the huge numbers, it's incredibly challenging.
And
Question, Dr. Percy. I can clarify it for you.
Okay.
2 months ago, at the beginning of this, I'm sure that contact tracing was done much differently because there were not the amount of cases that we're seeing today. Considering that this is much more widespread within the community, how has that changed the operations with regards to contact tracing?
Mario, that's a good question. So one thing that we've done is we've combined, right now we're working to work with the labs to combine the notification of the patient of the test result with case investigations. That all happens at one time. And so we're working with the labs to get that done. In addition, we've employed a new computer system because many people are communicating through their phones now and text messages and email. And so with a lot of folks who give us that information, we are immediately sending them notice that their test result and asking them to start to respond back to us with some information because particularly with the younger group, they're far more comfortable communicating that way. And we are seeing that speeding things up quite a bit. With the contact tracing, it's a little bit different because we don't necessarily have their email addresses and stuff like you do with somebody who got tested.
Mayor, I noticed, Mayor, you kind of nodded your head there. Did you want to add something with regards to contact tracing, sir?
Let me just say that it's much easier when you are applying contact tracing when you got 300 cases. It's far more difficult when you're getting 1,500. I mean, the infrastructure really needs to be in place, and you need literally thousands of people to effectively do that. And that's why we are stressing, instead of reading out 1,500 cases a day, we really need to get to the point where we're talking about 300 or less over a 7-day period, okay? To really give real meaning to our contact tracing, where we feel comfortable within becoming a little bit more mobile in society. But right now, the numbers are just too high. And it's putting a strain on the healthcare delivery system. It's putting a strain on our contact tracers. It's like we're chasing, but we're not in front. And what we're needing to be now in the city of Houston, we want to work to get in front of this virus, to contain, mitigate, treat, isolate, and we're not there. We're still chasing this virus. And that's why we need the help of people in our community to separate, to slow down, take the energy, the fuel away from this virus so it can slow down. And then it needs to start not just flattening, it needs to come down, and it needs to stay down. Like in Europe. Flattened, went down, and now somewhat leveling off. And we're not there yet. We're a long way from being there.
I guess my next one would be in Spanish for Chief Peña, if you could just answer in regards to las operaciones del Departamento de Bomberos, la capacidad de sus empleados y todo lo que está sucediendo en estos momentos. Hablaba sobre aclarar rumores. ¿Me podría hablar un poco respecto a eso?
Seguro. Mire, ahorita tenemos 190 bomberos que están en cuarentena, cerca de ser expuestos al coronavirus. Tenemos 2 bomberos que están en el hospital, uno en cuidado intensivo. No, esperamos que se recupere pronto, pero está en cuidados intensivos. Tenemos, como le digo, 190 bomberos ahorita que están en cuarentena. Y lo que le quiero decir a la comunidad, hay rumores que hay estaciones que están cerradas. Eso es falso. La verdad es que todas las estaciones están operando. Tenemos 104 ambulancias que están en servicios. Tenemos todas las trocas de bomberos que están en servicio, y sí ha habido instantes desde el 4 de julio hasta ahorita, en diferentes días, que tengamos que dejar de operar las escaleras, las más grandes, pero las trocas de bomberos y las ambulancias han estado en servicio y van a continuar estando en servicio. El número de personal en cuarentena está bajando ahorita. Como le digo, hace 3 semanas teníamos más de 300 bomberos en cuarentena, ahora tenemos 190. Y eso es positivo. Tenemos más personal para poder tener nuestras unidades en servicio, pero todavía está estresado el sistema. ¿Sí? 200 bomberos casi, son bastantes bomberos que no tenemos disponibles para nuestras unidades, y está poniendo bastante estrés en el sistema. Y los bomberos que tenemos ahorita están trabajando turnos dobles o triples. Así es que no estamos en un lugar que quisiéramos estar todavía, pero estamos moviendo en la dirección positiva.
Gracias.
Mayor, I have one quick question for you. So California has really reversed their reopening plan. Do you think that that's the direction that we need to be headed into? I'm not sure if you've seen that they're closing restaurants, movie theaters, salons, bars, everything.
I do think we need to reset for a short period of time and then take a look at what the data is. And the numbers right now are continuing to go up, and we are not in control of this virus. It is far different today than things were the end of April, first week in May. And look, we're talking about getting our kids and everybody ready for school in the month of August. If we were opening up schools, or attempting to open up schools right now, I think people would say, no way. Okay? We don't want this virus to continue to be progressing like it is in August. So the wearing of masks, that's a step in the right direction, but I think it's going to take more than that. So I do think we need to reset, to go back to a stay home for at least 2 weeks. At the very minimum, return to phase 1. okay, at the very minimum, return to phase one, and that was 25% occupancy, and then take a look at the data, and then gradually move forward. So, I want to thank everyone who's wearing their masks. I really appreciate everyone who's doing that. But quite frankly, at the point where we are right now, I think we're needing to do more than that. Okay, the temporary injunction was denied here locally as well. Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate the Texas Supreme Court for denying the motions that were the mandamus, writ of mandamus that was put forth to allow the convention to continue to go forward in Houston. And I don't just appreciate it. I appreciate it on behalf of the people in the city of Houston, the employees, the delegates themselves, the people in this city, and the towns and cities from which the people would come. And then I'm hearing that the temporary injunction was denied today by the state district judges, so appreciate all of that. Look, it's going to require all of us to work together. That's what this is all about. We've been spending the last 30 minutes talking about this pandemic and how do we get on top of it or in front of it. And so it's painful for everyone. Everyone is having to change course and pivot. That's just the mode in which we are in. So it is important that we all take this virus very serious. It is a serious matter. But I do want to thank people in the city of Houston, again, for wearing your mask, for engaging in social distancing, for the proper hygiene. I want to thank you. Really want you to know I appreciate you personally, and as the mayor of the city of Houston, we got a long way to go, but there's no doubt in my mind that we are a very competitive city, and we don't mind being first, but we don't want to be first in this regard. We don't mind being on television, nationally, globally, but we don't want to be on television nationally and globally because our cases are running rampant and our healthcare system is running the risk of being overloaded. So those are things we don't want to be known for. And so it's just important now for us to reverse course, and in order for that to happen, it's going to require all of us working together. So I want to thank the council members again for their support. I want to thank our firefighters and ES workers for being out on the front line, responding to all of these calls. Chief Pena, thank you, the firefighters, EMS. I want to thank our police officers and municipal workers. And then let me especially thank our healthcare employees, because they have been the ones on Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Thursday, in this heat, okay, with their gowns and masks on doing the test taking. And I want you to know that the city of Houston employees, health employees, stayed out there on Friday, Saturday. We never shut down. I want to give a huge, huge thanks to our city of Houston healthcare employees, and just want them to know that we appreciate them staying on the front line in 100+ degree heat during the middle of the day, taking care of other people when they were sweating underneath those gowns and with their masks on and all the face coverings and you name it. So I can't say enough for them. Really appreciate you. Thank you so very, very much. And you all have a good day. Thank you.
Mayor Turner and his team there with some big numbers today. 1,544 new COVID cases in the city and 8 new deaths. The mayor there talking about the total number of cases, total number of deaths. He mentioned nursing homes and those 3 deaths in the Harris County Jail. The mayor saying we're at a critical point here, and he is echoing what the county judge is saying, Lena Hidalgo, asking for the authority to shut things down